Good morning, cadets. Today we are going to learn another form of viscous force that was formulated, the equation for which was formulated by George G. Stokes. We are learning Stokes' law. Whenever a body is falling through fluid, then the layers of the fluid, between the layers of the fluid, a relative motion is setting. When body, like a spherical ball, for example, spherical body is falling through fluid, then a relative motion between the layers of the fluid is setting. Thereby, a viscous drag is setting between the relative layers. This viscous drag, which is setting between the relative layers of the fluid, leads to a resultant force which retards the falling motion of the fluid, falling motion of the body. For example, consider a sphere, a spherical body is falling through the layers of fluid. Then the layers of fluid, if you just see, I have just drawn just two layers. Between the two layers of these fluid, viscous drag is setting. Viscous drag means a force which opposes the motion of the layers, of the relative motion of the fluid layers is setting. That can be drawn like this. So the resultant force of this will be in the exact opposite direction of the motion of the body. Thus, a retarding viscous force is setting which opposes the motion of the falling body through the fluid layers. This force was calculated by George Stokes and it is seen experimentally. It is seen experimentally that this retarding force as you know is the force which opposes the motion. So that retarding force itself is nothing but the viscous force. This retarding force, which is termed as viscous force, is found to be directly proportional to the velocity of the body. Velocity of the body in motion, and it opposes the motion. Therefore, this is a retarding force. So we can write mathematically, if F is the retarding viscous force, then it is found to be directly proportional to velocity, but it is in the opposite direction of motion. Then this viscous force is also found to be directly proportional to the viscosity eta, coefficient of viscosity of the fluid that is under consideration. That is coefficient of viscosity, or in simple terms it is also called as viscosity of the fluid, and it is also found to be directly proportional to the radius of this spherical body. Depends on the radius of this spherical body. Radius of this spherical body. So these are the three factors on which this retarding force is found to depend. So clubbed together, we can write it is directly proportional to eta A V, product of eta A V, and when the proportionality sign is taken out, it is found to be 6 pi times eta theta AB, where 6 pi is the constant. So there is no derivation for this equation. So this itself is called as Stokes law. So the viscous drag that is set in here, you see, it is going to oppose. So viscous drag is going to be in this direction. If I just denote it as FV for viscous drag, you see, it's going to be in the opposite direction. This is the viscous drag at this point due to the layer which is moving in this direction, and this is the direction of viscous drag due to the layer which is moving in this direction. As a result, you see, the resultant force will be vertically upwards, whereas the direction of motion is vertically downwards. This is the direction of velocity. If v is the velocity, then this retarding force is found to be directly proportional to velocity, directly proportional to the radius of the falling body, and it is directly proportional to the viscosity of the layer of this fluid, layers of this fluid. So this is called as Stokes law. For this 11th class, there is no derivation of this equation. We are learning only the consequences of this important law that is called as Stokes law. To learn the Stokes law and the viscous force, that is the retarding force, the main examples are a raindrop, falling down, through air layers. Another one is pendulum bob, oscillating pendulum bob. When the bob is oscillating, we need to consider the air resistance. Air resistance is nothing but the viscous drag exerted by air layers, which opposes the oscillatory motion of this oscillating pendulum bob. So if the bob tends to move in this direction, then always a retarding force will be acting in the opposite direction. If it is moving in the forward direction, it will be opposing the forward motion, and if it is returning back, again it will be opposing the returning motion. So the viscous drag is due to the air layers, because we are not considering the surrounding air, which affects the oscillatory motion of the pendulum bob. So oscillating pendulum bob through air or through any oil medium. If our pendulum bob is oscillated through oil medium or water medium, then we need to consider water as the fluid or oil as the fluid. If it is in air, then air is a fluid. So viscosity of air should be considered if it is oscillating in the air medium. If it is in the water medium, then we have to consider viscosity of water medium. So the three factors on which the viscous force depends are the velocity of the motion of the body, and it is opposing the motion of the body. Second thing, it is the viscosity of the fluid. The third one is radius of this falling body. Okay. Now we will consider one particular example, that is a raindrop falling down through air. How does a raindrop falling down through air experiences viscous drag? Along with the viscous drag, there is one more force exerted by the fluid, that is called as buoyant force. You know, buoyant force is the upward thrust exerted by a fluid whenever a body is taken inside a fluid. You must have learned in 9th standard the Archimedes principle. Archimedes principle states that whenever a body is immersed partially or wholly inside a fluid, then an upward thrust is exerted on the body. This upward thrust exerted by the fluid layers or by the fluid is called as buoyant force. This phenomenon of exerting upward force is called as buoyancy. So, in addition to the viscous force, there is another force which opposes the motion, which exerts an upward motion, an upward thrust, not upward motion. It exerts an upward thrust called as buoyant force, right? So there are two forces when a raindrop is falling down through air, right? The raindrop is falling down basically due to the acceleration due to gravity. Due to its weight, the raindrop is falling down. This downward motion of the rain is opposed by two forces. One is the viscous drag exerted by the relative motion of the fluid layers. Second one is the upward thrust exerted by the fluid due to its buoyancy. The phenomenon of exerting an upward thrust by a fluid whenever an object is immersed in a fluid is called as buoyancy. Okay, we will consider that. Now consider the example of a raindrop falling down through air. Example of raindrop falling down through air. When it is falling down through air, as we have drawn earlier, the air layers, they exert a viscous drag. The viscous drag, the resultant of which will be vertically upwards. So this is how I am showing FV for viscous drag. Otherwise, the raindrop is falling down due to its weight. Weight of the raindrop is given by mg. Due to gravity, the raindrop falls down vertically towards the surface of the earth. So this free fall of the raindrop, is it not the free fall? When it is falling freely under the gravity, we call it as free fall. This free fall of the raindrop is now opposed by two forces. One force is the net viscous force, which is opposing the motion, and it is directly proportional to the velocity of the raindrop. In addition to this, there is one more force, buoyant force. That buoyant force also acts in the vertically upward direction. I will show you Fb as the buoyant force. So there are two forces which oppose the vertical downward motion of the raindrop. Let the weight of raindrop be m into g, which is taken as w. This is let us say equation number 1. This free fall of raindrop is opposed by two forces. One, viscous force. Second one, buoyant force. Okay, we know viscous force. Viscous force I have denoted here by Fv. Fv is equal to 6 pi eta Av. 6 pi eta Av according to Stokes law. Right? And buoyant force we have to find out using Archimedes principle. What Archimedes principle states? Whenever an object is immersed partially or fully in a fluid, then the buoyant force exerted on the object, an upward thrust called buoyant force exerted on the object, is equal to weight of the volume of the fluid displaced by it. That's how we call it as buoyant force. So using Archimedes principle, we can find out what is the buoyant force. I will call this buoyant force by Fb, where F is equal to weight of volume of the fluid, and the fluid here is air, weight of the volume of the fluid displaced by the object. This is nothing but Archimedes principle. This is what we have written using Archimedes principle. So two forces are opposing the downward motion of the raindrop. Now, as a result, what happens? The speed of the raindrop goes on decreasing. Otherwise, it is accelerating downwards due to gravity. It has acceleration due to gravity. Now, the acceleration is reduced. The acceleration is reduced. At one particular point, what happens? When the net upward force now becomes Fb plus Fp, because both are in the upward direction. When the net upward force just becomes equal to the downward weight of the body, then net force acting on the falling raindrop becomes zero. Suppose the raindrop has reached somewhere at this particular moment. Suppose the net force upward is Fb plus Fp just becomes equal to weight, that is equal to mg. Then what happens? The raindrop starts falling down with that final velocity, because already it is falling down under acceleration due to gravity. Slowly what happens? The acceleration due to gravity, the acceleration of the falling raindrop goes on decreasing. It undergoes retardation. At one particular point, when the net upward force due to viscous force and buoyant force becomes equal to the downward force, then the raindrop starts falling down with that final velocity. With what velocity it has got, that at that particular moment, it starts falling down with that final constant velocity. That velocity is called as terminal velocity. It will start falling down with terminal velocity Vt. We will be able to calculate what is the value of this terminal velocity. Okay. Let the weight of the raindrop be W. Free fall of the raindrop is opposed by two forces. When the net force acting on the falling raindrop, becomes zero, the raindrop continues to fall. With constant velocity. That constant velocity is called as terminal velocity. So terminal velocity is defined as the constant final velocity attained by a body when the net force acting on the body is zero. You can note down what is terminal velocity. Terminal velocity is that final constant velocity attained by a body when the net force acting on the body is zero. That is denoted by terminal velocity Vt. Now we shall calculate the terminal velocity of this falling raindrop. Terminal velocity of falling raindrop. So when the raindrop is falling down, as I said, the raindrop is falling down, when the net force, buoyant force plus viscous force becomes equal to weight of the falling body, weight of the falling raindrop, then W is equal to Fb plus Fb. Now we know what is Fb. Fb is given by Stokes law, 6 pi eta a dt. 6 pi eta ABT plus buoyant force. Buoyant force is given by Archimedes principle. 4 by 3 pi A cube sigma into G. Now how is it calculated? Let us look at this one. Now according to Archimedes principle, what Archimedes principle states, weight of the buoyant force exerted. For example, whenever a body is taken in a fluid, then buoyant force exerted on the body and upward force exerted on the body is called buoyant force, and that buoyant force is equal to weight of the volume of the fluid displaced by the body. Weight of the volume of the fluid displaced by the body. I will find out what is the weight of the volume of air displaced by the body in this case. We don't know what is the mass of the air displaced, what is the mass of the sphere also we don't know. Therefore, mass of air displaced is equal to volume of the air displaced into density of air. Let sigma be the density of the air, the fluid through which it is falling down. So, volume into sigma gives us mass. Now, volume of the air displaced is equal to volume of the sphere itself, volume of the raindrop itself. That is 4 by 3 pi A cube is the volume of the raindrop, that itself equal to volume of the air displaced. So 4 by 3 pi A cube into sigma. Sigma is the density of the air. Therefore, volume into density gives us mass of the air displaced. This mass of the air displaced multiplied by acceleration due to gravity. This mass of the air displaced multiplied by acceleration due to gravity gives us weight of the air displaced by the falling raindrop. That's how we find out buoyant force using Archimedes principle. So now I want to calculate what is the terminal velocity Vt. So what I did here, weight I have substituted as mg equal to 6 pi eta A Vt plus 4 by 3 pi A cube sigma g, where sigma is the density of fluid or density of the air. We want to find out Vt. Therefore, Vt can be found out using this equation. Now we don't know what is the mass of the raindrop. Mass of raindrop can also be calculated by the knowledge of what is the density of raindrop and what is the volume of raindrop, as we have found out here. So mass of raindrop, I am writing here, mass of raindrop is equal to M equal to volume of raindrop into density. Let rho be the density of raindrop. That is, raindrop means water. Density of raindrop, that is density of water. So this is nothing but 4 by 3 pi A cube into rho. So this is what I can substitute here. So 4 by 3 pi A cube into rho into G. Then equation becomes simple. Now you can see I will substitute the value of mass here. Mass by this value. So this becomes 4 by 3 pi A cube into rho minus 4 by 3 pi A cube into sigma G is here. M into G gives us weight. G equal to 6 pi eta A Vt. Right? Now 4 by 3 pi A cube, 4 by 3 pi A cube and sigma G are common. So I can take out 4 by 3 pi A cube rho minus sigma into G. This becomes the LHS, that's equal to 6 pi eta A V. Therefore, terminal velocity Vt, you can just cancel here, 2 3s are, so it becomes 2 by 9, and 3 comes to the denominator, it becomes 2 by 9, and eta also comes to the numerator, 2 by 9 eta, 2 by 9 eta into pi cancels, 1a cancels, you are left with a square here. So 2 by 9 a square into rho minus sigma into g. So this becomes the final equation for terminal velocity. Final equation for terminal velocity. Therefore, terminal velocity is directly proportional to square. Terminal velocity is directly proportional to square of the radius. Square of the radius, and terminal velocity is inversely proportional to viscosity. Terminal velocity is inversely proportional to viscosity. That is, the final velocity, constant velocity with which the raindrop is falling down when the net force is 0, is inversely proportional to the viscosity of the fluid. More the viscosity of the fluid, less is the terminal velocity. Less the viscosity of the fluid, more is the terminal velocity. That's how we calculate the terminal velocity. Okay. Based on this, we will solve one numerical problem. Now look at this example. Terminal velocity of a copper ball of radius 2 mm falling through a tank of oil at 20 degrees Celsius is 6.5 cm per second. A copper ball is falling down through oil tank at 20 degrees Celsius with terminal velocity of 6.5 cm per second. Already it has attained terminal velocity 6.5 cm per second. Compute the viscosity of the oil at 20 degrees Celsius. Given density of copper 8.9 into 10 raised to 3 kg per meter cube. Density of oil 1.5 into 10 raised to 3 kg per meter cube. Okay. Now we will write given density of copper 8.9 into 10 raised to 3 kg per meter cube. Density of the oil sigma 1.5 into 10 raised to 3 kg per meter cube. Terminal velocity 6.5 centimeter per second. Must convert it into meter per second. 6.5 into 10 raised to minus 2 meter per second. Okay. Now the radius of the copper ball is also given. Radius of the copper ball A is equal to 2 millimeter. 2 mm is equal to 2 into 10 raised to minus 3 meter. So these are the given things. Now we need to use. You are asked to find out what is viscosity of oil, right? So we know the equation for terminal velocity. We have Vt equal to 2 by 9 eta into a square rho minus sigma into g. 2 by 9 eta a square rho minus sigma into g. But we are asked to find out what is the eta, that is viscosity. So just take this eta to the left hand side and Vd to the right hand side. So eta becomes equal to 9 2 by 9 Vd. Now substitute the values, you will get the result. So 9 you can take 9.8, right? So this becomes 2 by 9 2 by 9 Vd. I will write here itself. Vd is 6.5 into 10 raised to minus 2, right? A square. What is a square? 2 into 10 raised to minus 3 whole square. That becomes 4 into 10 raised to minus 6 into the 8.9, that is rho minus sigma. Rho minus sigma is 8.9. You can just solve it. 8.9 minus 8.9 minus 1.5 into 10 raised to 3. So that becomes rho minus sigma into 9.8. So this equation gives us the value of coefficient of viscosity. So 2 into 4 into 10 raised to minus 6 into 9 minus 5, 4. So it becomes 7.4. 7.4 into 10 raised to 3 into 9.8 whole divided by 9 into 6.5 into 10 raised to minus 2. So if we simplify this, we get the required result. The result is 9.9 into 10 raised to minus 1. 9.9 into 10 raised to minus 1 Poisson, right? So we have written what is Poisson in the previous session. kg per meter per second. That's equal to 9.9 into 10 raised to minus 1 kg per meter per second. That is the SI unit of coefficient of viscosity. Okay, this is how we discuss about viscosity, Stokes law, and terminal velocity. So, question on terminal velocity will be usually asked in the annual examination. So, practice the derivation of obtaining terminal velocity. It's very simple. Okay, step by step, if you just follow, it becomes very simple. And solve this problem so that it becomes quite easy. In the next session, we will learn about one more very important property of the liquids, that is called surface tension. Every liquid, whenever we take a liquid in a container like a beaker or a bucket, or for that matter any container, then it will have a well-defined surface. Every liquid has a well-defined surface whenever it is taken in a container when the liquid is at rest. Now we are going to discuss about the property of this surface. That is what we are learning it as surface tension, which is very interesting. We are going to learn it in the next session. Thank you. Have a nice day.